Okay, so we are recording, and we just want to thank everyone. Just some administrative parts. If you would like to ask a question, please use the chat feature, and we will ask as the presentation is going on. And we will have question and answers at the end. And you can also raise your hand in the reactions on the top part of the there's a little person raising a hand. Reactions, you can raise up your hand and we will call on you when the time's needed. And we do ask that when you're asking a question or that you come on camera just to have a good old conversation. So with that, more people are still entering. Like to give it to our presenter, Merlene.
Jaimin, can you hear me? Casey, can you hear me? Sorry. I think we are going to have some delays and lags because there are two huge meetings going on at the same time. So it would be advisable if everybody can keep their videos off until they're going in to ask a question. That will help with the bandwidth. I think that's why we are seeing some delays in things loading, etc. So if you don't mind, please keep your videos turned off unless you are asking a question or part of that conversation. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I'll be button on the meeting now.
So hello everyone that's new. We will be starting shortly. If you could put your questions into the chat box and then come on camera when you have a question. Otherwise, please keep your video off where there's a lot of Teams activity going on right now.
Hello, this is Merlene Mazyck. Can anyone hear me? And a thumbs up from anyone would be helpful.
Yes, Merlene, we can hear you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And can you see me? Is my camera working?
I do not see you.
Okay, I'm not sure what's going on.
I can see you.
I can see you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. My apologies for whatever reason. When I log into this large group meeting, I have some problems with being muted or unmuted in cameras. Anyway, I had to log out. I just want to say thank you. Please accept my apologies for being tardy. I want to thank you for joining us today to learn more about reporting related to workforce development partnerships in the Forest Service. My name is Merlene Mazyck. I am the Civilian Climate Corps coordinator and NRA liaison to USDA. My role in this portal dates back to my involvement or my position as the Volunteers and Service Program Manager for the Forest Service, National Program Manager for the Forest Service for the past 10, 11 years. And my partner that we will be presenting with me today on this webinar is Jaimin Bhatt. He helped us build this system that we are now expanding to include an emphasis on individuals. The two of us will be presenting. I see that many of you have already started entering your name and organization in the chat box. I encourage all of you to do that. We would love to have a record of who is on this call in our chat. And it's just always very exciting to see the diversity of partners who attend these types of webinars. Next slide, please. As noted, this is the agenda. As noted, we are here today to talk about a new reporting system that will be launched shortly and will be a resource for partners to share information. I will kick it off by talking a little bit about the what and why and of this reporting requirement, and the programs that will be impacted and how we plan to work with partners and cooperators to ensure compliance. Then Jaimin will walk you through the application and how partners can access and enter data. We will ask you to complete a couple polls throughout the presentation and then answer all of your questions at the end. Next slide, please.
Hey, Merlene, this is Jono.
Yes.
We're not actually seeing your screen, at least I'm not. We're just seeing Jaimin's.
Yeah, that's the screen I'm talking about. So the slide, we should be on slide 3, the what and why.
Yeah, it's blank. It just has her initials.
I think there's a network latency, so it's taking a bit long to load, but can somebody else confirm that you guys can see the slide, what and why?
Yeah, I can see the slide.
Okay.
We can see it.
Okay,
I'll
try booting in.
If any one of you are on the Forest Service network, and if you don't need to access the Forest Service network, getting off of VPN will definitely help.
Okay, well, I'm going to continue, John. I hope that you can resolve that. I'm glad you're on the call. So the what and why of this, what we're calling the portal for now, and what I'm calling the partner portal, because it is a portal designed for partners to directly enter information. This system will help us expand our capacity to capture data about individuals. It's going to allow us to track workforce development experiences. And when I talk about workforce development, the next slide will talk about the programs that are impacted by that. But it is all the work that we're doing in collaboration with you, cooperators, partners, and other non-Forest Service collaborators to bring individuals, young adults, teenagers, emerging professionals, veterans, and others into work experiences that are helping them develop their work skills, as well as helping us get critical work done. We want to improve our outcomes for candidates with special hiring authorities. Many of these partnerships include an authority that extends hiring eligibility, such as non-competitive hiring and or direct hiring authority. And what we want to be able to do is be better positioned to help all of those individuals who come through, who are authorized by those that statute that provides and confers these special hiring authorities, so that that we know who they are, and that if they're interested in jobs with the Forest Service and meet the qualifications, then that we have a way to connect with them. This system will help inform our diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility priorities. As you all, I'm sure, are fully aware, this is a top priority of the administration and is subsequently a priority of the Forest Service and all of the USDA's agencies. We are preparing to roll out a quite extensive equity plan that will allow us to increase our ability to support our units, our partners, and participants who engage with us in workforce development experiences, but also that we are reaching communities that have been historically underrepresented in the natural resources in our public lands and forest lands particularly. We want to, of course, enhance reporting and, to the extent possible, ease reporting by partners and ease of reporting by partners, meaning that, yes, we may be asking for more information, but we want to ask for it smartly, and we want to provide you with resources and capacity to submit this data without it being too burdensome for you. And then, of course, all reporting helps us increase accountability of federal resources. And the Forest Service in just the past year has been very fortunate to benefit from an infusion of funds that are going to help us expand the work that we're doing with partners. So this system will ensure that we are being accountable for those federal resources and taxpayer dollars. Next slide, please. The programs that are impacted by this reporting requirement include all of the projects and partnerships that are authorized by the Public Lands Court Act. 16 USC 16 is the statute. You can search it easily online. But this is the statute that confers the special hiring authority, non-competitive hiring eligibility, and that authorizes our ability to deliver on the Resource Assistance Program, which is another program impacted by this reporting requirement. So anytime that you are a partner, we establish an agreement with you to bring on crews or interns or other individuals who are going to be working with us to deliver our mission. We're trying to ensure that to the extent it's possible that you're using that Public Lands Corps authority. So those are what we call our Public Lands Corps projects. 21st Century Conservation Service Corps projects may not always be authorized by the Public Lands Corps Act, but they are also bringing young people, emerging professionals, veterans, and others who are interested in careers or who are interested in the work of natural resources and land management onto our forests through some agreement instrument. I mentioned the Resource Assistance Program. Even our Youth Conservation Corps, even though that does not confer a special hiring eligibility, it is a important introduction to work on forest lands, and it targets teenagers and who are between the ages of 15 and 18. And we are able to engage Youth Conservation Corps members directly by hiring them as seasonals, and we can work with our partners to bring on Youth Conservation Corps members who are generally just with us for the summer. And then there is our Forest Service Job Corps centers that often perform Public Lands Corps projects, authorized projects with forest units. They will be impacted by this reporting requirement. And then a plethora of other internships and crew agreements with that have a workforce development component. So you'll find out more about these programs by visiting a link that we've included at the end of this presentation. And we encourage you to visit. Next slide, please. So how are we going to work with our partners to ensure that compliance with this new reporting requirement? So first, this is a soft launch for FY22, meaning we're not going to require that partners who have workforce development type agreements and relationships with the Forest Service enter this data. And we are going to ask for partners to volunteer to be a part of this launch. This will help us identify any kinks or issues that we may have with the application, as well as better prepare us for a full launch in FY23, when there will be an expectation that all partners with workforce development agreements will be required to comply with this reporting. This reporting, as I mentioned earlier, is critically important to our emphasis on equity, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. So we are really counting on our partners to help us do a better job of understanding who the race and ethnicity of the individuals who are engaged through their organizations and who work with us. We are expanding the gender categories to align with the changing norms of this country around how individuals identify. And we are very, very interested in whether our participants are veterans or have a disability status. and you'll see that reflected in the system. And then we will also be standardizing reporting requirements included in agreements related to reporting this information. And that will, any new agreements that we establish for FY23, and we will certainly be modifying any existing agreements that have this workforce development component. So, you know, there's some opportunities, I think, for us to learn from you about what works best as it relates to how this reporting will occur. We are going to ask that our partners enter data twice a year. So midway through the fiscal year, which for the Forest Service is October through September. So that means around April, there will be a reporting requirement, and then there will be another reporting requirement for this data at the conclusion of the fiscal year, sometime in October.
Merlene, sorry to
yes.
interrupt you. We were supposed to do a poll, so I don't know if you want to do it before we go to the next slide.
Yes, I appreciate you reminding me about the poll. Do you mind posting the poll? The first poll is to ask how many of you have had formal agreements, I believe, with the Forest Service. Is that correct, Lima?
Yes, it's now in everyone's window to complete. So.
Gives me a chance to pause for a minute and see who's all on the call.
Thank you, lady.
And then I believe there's a second poll that will be coming up shortly after this one is completed. And I see there are some questions of the biannual reporting periods. Stacy, as I noted, the first reporting cycle in the fiscal year would be around April 1st, which is midway through the fiscal year for the Forest Service. And then the final reporting for that fiscal year would be in October. Is the poll loading?
Yes, and we have some results, right, lady?
Yes,
Yeah.
for the first question, it says, have you had a formal agreement with Forest Service to deliver a workforce development experience? And 82% of people said yes, with 17% out of 87 responses say no, they have not. And then moving on to the next question. The winner of if you've partnered with the Forest Service on workforce development projects, which program have you worked with? 29%, and some results are still coming in, said that they've done the Public Lands Corps. And then the next one is 20% with the Youth Conservation Corps, 16% of 21st Century Conservation Service Corps. Oh, that just went up to 17%. So we'll wait until all the poll results come in to report on those.
Thank you, Casey. So these polls are intended to help us understand a little bit about who's in the room. Love the 17% who have not worked with us before, really interested in learning more about who you are and how you might be able to contribute and work with us, partner with us to deliver on this important work with the Forest Service. And really excited about all of you who have already entered into agreements with us. And I think that we all have a lot to learn from you as well. With that, if you, we can come back to the final poll results if there are any, and if not, I want to hand it off to Jaimin to do a demo and walk them through the application.
Thank you, Merlene. I'll wait for them to close out the poll. I think they're still getting responses.
Well, Teams is awfully slow today.
it's because of that other call that's going on, Merlene.
Oh, the all hands call.
Yeah.
So just so you all know, partners, we are missing an all hands call that the Forest Service is hosting to share information about the return back to the office. But we thought this was the more important call. So very glad to be here with you.
All right.
Okay, so why don't you proceed, Jaimin, and then if need be, we can certainly come back to the poll.
Absolutely. Thank you, Merlene. So, hey, everybody, my name is Jaimin, and I have been working with the volunteer and service programs for over a decade, and we already have an internal data collection system that is used by the Forest Service employees. And this portal is essentially an extension to that same system, which will now allow the partners to enter information directly for all workforce development projects. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the demo. Before I start with the demo, I'm going to go through some slides. So what is the VSPortal? VSPortal is a web-based portal application, and it will be hosted in the Forest Service DMZ and will be accessible to external partners. And to access this, the partners will create a profile with login.gov, which is an authentication service offered by GSA. And login.gov can be used by partners to access federal government systems such as VSPortal directly using a profile that they create in there. So we'll be using that system for authentication. It's a simple and intuitive design to allow you guys to navigate and enter the data that is needed. Of course, like I said, partners will have access to do their own direct data entry. And one of the outcomes of collaborating with some of the partners and getting some feedback was that we came up with a bulk upload option via a spreadsheet template. So I know somebody asked a question in the chat earlier about an API. No, we don't have an API yet, but there is a bulk upload spreadsheet which you can use to load data from your systems and then directly do a bulk upload into VSPortal. So benefit for partners that have their own systems, they can use the bulk upload. They don't have to enter manually. And if there are smaller partners that are maintaining their data in some kind of a manual electronic format, they can leverage the system by entering the data here and being able to maintain it right here. All right, so like I said, there's just a few screens that we have to talk about. So you have the partner dashboard. This is where you will see all of your information, your profile. The 3 Ps is how I call it: the profile, the participants, and the projects. So this is where you see all of your dashboard information. Again, right now it's a simplistic dashboard. We plan to improve this as time goes on and as we get more feedback. You have this big button right here to do the import right on the dashboard. This is where you can start your bulk import into the system. Apart from that, if you have the ability to manage your profile, to manage your participants, and to manage your projects. So manage your profiles essentially gets you to the page where you can manage basic information about your profile. This is some test data here. So you would have your name, a master agreement number, address, primary and secondary contact information. And we also have a place where you can specify the services provided. And this is information that we collect now, so we can see what to do with that. Again, I'll be going through a demo. These are just screen captures. So if you can't see them clearly, don't be worried about it. You're actually going to see the real screens. Then you have managed participants. This is where you will see the list of all participants that you currently have engaged on Forest Service projects. And you can manage the participant information right here. All right. When you click on edit for managed participant, it shows you the individual data for each participant that you'll be managing. Again, we'll see the screens as we go forward. My projects is where you'll be managing your projects. This is the list of projects that will be visible to partners. And these projects are the ones that are assigned to a specific partner. So each partner on their login would only see specific projects assigned to them. So you won't be seeing projects from another partner and vice versa. All right. And in the initial iteration of the system, if you're doing manual data entry, one of the Forest Service folks at the location where the project is being performed will be assigning the project to you as a partner, and then your users will have ability to view that in the portal. Under managed projects, you have participant information, and this is where you are going to link participants to a specific project, and you're going to report hours against what work they're doing, against the type of work they're doing. And you can also capture their certificate status. And we'll see all this. I'm trying to speed through the slides so we have more time on the demo. We also have some very basic reporting right now, and we intentionally did not expand on reporting initially because we would like to get some feedback and then introduce some kind of a reporting that would be a value add for the partners to be able to view information directly from this portal in form of reports. So here you can see an example of a demographic information report, and it essentially shows the demographic breakup for a selected criteria by gender, by ethnicity, by race, by age, by education, and by military experience. So this is some kind of reporting that will be available to you initially. And like I said, we would definitely be looking into expanding these reports and making them more usable for the partners. All right, so with that, let me go ahead and get into the demo. So I'm going to open up my web browser. And I'm going to a test site for this demo. So once I go to the test site for the demo, you'll notice that it automatically redirects me to login.gov. So in login.gov, you would have already registered your accounts, and you would also have requested access to the system by submitting a request to your Forest Service contact. Because just having a login.gov account does not give you access. We also have to ensure that we are giving you access to the VSPortal system on our end. All right. Otherwise, we would not want to have anybody and everybody who has a login.gov account be able to access it. So this is where you sign in. And when you sign in, it will ask you for your multi-factor authentication. This is one of the things, one of the reasons for using login.gov. It provides that additional layer of security. And you can use any of the popular authenticator apps or even a text phone number to do your multi-factor authentication. So I'm going to go ahead and enter my authentication code and submit. All right, so here I am signed in, and let's just take a quick look. So like I said, you'll be on the dashboard. On the dashboard, you will see the profile for the partner. You will see the participants that are in this partnership from this partner working on Forest Service projects, and of course, the list of projects. When you go to manage profile, this is where you have the ability to update information such as your master agreement number, your address, primary contact information, secondary contact information, and this right here is a drop down. So this aligns to the different types of work that Forest Service has and it collects data against. So any of these that you perform, you can add here. So at some point in future, this would provide some value add where we can search for partners that provide a specific type of work and leverage that information. So I am, and you can type in here. This is free text, so you can try to search for something if you're looking for a specific thing and add it. All right, and so essentially a easy way for you guys to maintain your partner information. All right. Now I could go to dashboard and I can click on manage from here, or I can click on my participants right here in the left nav, and it takes me to the list of participants. So this is a list of all the participants that you as a partner would have working with Forest Service. And each partner only sees their list in here, right? So it's not like anybody can see everybody's participants. It is specific to that partner. Now, if you're doing manual data entry, you can click on new participant, and you can, when you click on new participant, it will first ask you to search, because what we are trying to do here is based on the name and based on the month and year of birth and email address. If you enter the email address, if we find a match in the system, which means that a participant was already engaged from a different partner in the past, then we simply assign that participant to your partnership. And that way we ensure that hours for a single participant are tracked across multiple partnerships, rather than having it, broken down by each partner and then having to figure out what is the total hours. So that's an additional layer of functionality we have here. And once you enter something here, and I'm just entering something so I can get past the screen. All right, and you search. If no matches are found, then it will give you the option to continue to create a new participant. So this is kind of a way for us to ensure that if you are trying to enter a participant data, and if that is already in the system, then we fetch that record and we keep the integrity of the hours that are being maintained by that participant, right? And they won't lose any hours that they may have incurred against a different partner. That information will still be in the system, right? So this is where you can now click on create new participant. And I opened this form so I can show you guys the information that we are collecting. So it's the first name, the last name, email, permanent zip code, of contact phone number. We are not collecting a full date of birth. We are only collecting month and year of birth. And for participants that are under the age of 18, there is a legal guardian consent that you guys must be taking. So this is just a confirmation or just a certification that you have consent from the legal guardian or parent for this participant who's under 18. We collect the gender information, and like Merlene said, gender information is going to be expanded quite a bit in the coming months as we update the system. We have ethnicity. We have race 1 and race 2. So if somebody identifies as multiple mixed race, you can enter information from both the drop downs. And if it's just one, they could just select one. It is not necessary that you have to use both. Right. So this is the demographic information we collect. Then for the education information, we are collecting the level of education completed, and we are collecting the major. What was the major of that participant? Other data we collect is military veteran status, and in the next iteration, you will also see disability status being added here. And then we have these open text fields where you can type in their career goals and skills and abilities. The goal here is to see what kind of data we collect, and then we can determine if these can be helpful in the long run, or if these can be standardized in some way, or they can be got done. They can be completely done away with. There's a question, what if a participant doesn't want to answer? So in that scenario, we do have options in here for other unknown. So we will have options which allow you to say they did not choose to enter. But the goal here is we are trying our best to try and collect this information. All right, so that's the participant form.
Jaimin, can I
Yes.
just jump in quickly? So
Absolutely.
the most important part of this information that we're collecting is about the work, the who and the what they do, education, whether or not they are earning any special earning hours towards special hiring eligibility. If that parent agrees does not want the ethnicity or race or other demographics reported, then as Jaimin noted, you would submit unknown, but we still want and will require the other information about the work that they are doing and their engagement in this partnership. Thank you, Jaimin.
Thank you, Merlene. All right, so that's the new participant form, which allows you to enter new participant information. So this is essentially, you're just creating your roster, you're just adding your participants. So you have all your participants in here for you to assign them to projects, right? So that brings us to My Projects. Now, when you go to My Projects, initially when we started out with the VSPortal, the plan was that there is an internal system, and that internal system would be where the projects are entered by Forest Service folks that are working on that specific location using the internal system that they have in place. And then they would assign that project to the appropriate partnerships so that the partners can then see the project and then continue with additional data entry for the project. Now, since then, with some feedback, we added the feature for bulk upload, and I'll go in detail in that a little bit later. But with bulk upload, you can actually add your own project. You don't have to wait for a Forest Service employee to create a project and assign it to you to do the data entry. But for now, in this initial iteration, if you are going to use manual data entry, then you would have to request your Forest Service counterpart to create the project for you and assign it to you so you can see it in the portal. And once you start seeing it in the portal, then you can click on Edit Project. And this is where the emphasis comes in, what Merlene was just talking about. This is where you're going to associate your participants. You will see the list of participants that you already have, and from there you select a participant. You'll select the functional area. This is the type of work that they're doing. And based on the functional area selection, and then you will enter the hours worked for that participant. Whether is this a research assistant program position? If yes, then you click on yes. And at the moment we are monitoring the certificate status. We are leaving the certificate status as manual entry because we don't have prior data and we don't have a way to auto calculate eligibility based on information that's not in the system. But over time, as we start standardizing collection in the system, the certificate statuses will become automated and the system will maintain a count of hours and automatically change the status to yes or whatever the status is. And then the date of completion will also be in there according to that. And obviously you can enter some narrative and comments for this participant when you associate the participant with this project. So that's your associate participant page to link the participants so they can show up under that specific project. So here's the project. Here's where the project is being executed. And under that, you see all the participants on this project and the hours worked by them. And then as and when they continue to do more hours, you would click on edit and you would continue to add hours right here. So you would basically be coming here and you'll be updating, like if they did an additional 40 hours, you can change it to 40 and you can update it right here. So that's how you can manage the participant and project information. And you can manage the hours that are being recorded for each participant across all your projects. So if I go back to my projects, you will see there's a list of all the projects. And here you can see the total hours for this project, which may be coming from multiple participants who are part of this project. All right.
Jaimin?
So yes, Merlene.
I know that I don't want you, before you move on, there's a question about what if you have volunteers that work on multiple projects across different functional areas? And I wanted to put that out there for you to respond to if you could.
Absolutely. You can associate the same person on multiple projects. If their projects are overlapping, you would still be able to do it. And what you would do is, for example, let's say somebody is working on the wilderness project and working on the wildfire management project. Bad example because these places are hundreds of miles away, but just bear with me. So you would go under the first project, you would add that participant and you would record their hours for that participant over here. And under the participant, you would see what type of work you would select what type of work they're performing on this project. And then similarly, you would go to the other project, and on that other project, you would add the same participant. And for that project, you would assign them the different type of work they're performing, and you would add the hours. Does that answer your question?
I will permit the questioner to respond to that. I think that was AYCAL.
Yes. OK, awesome.
Thumbs up. Yes, great.
All right. And again, yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, since we're talking functional areas, there's just another question, Connor. Do functional areas correlate to the services provided? Yes, they're just they correlate to how the Forest Service captures that information, how the language that we use to report out those outcomes. I'm sorry, Jaimin, please proceed. I just wanted to capture those questions while we're there.
No worries, no problem. All right, so that's essentially the project data entry. And like I said, if you plan to use the manual data entry, if you do not have a lot of participants and manual data entry makes sense for you, then you would have to request your Forest Service counterpart to create the project for you and assign you as a partner to that project. All right. OK, so let's take a look at reports, and then I will jump into the bulk import and we will go through bulk import in detail. So under reports, like I said, there are very few reports right now. The goal here was to just give some basic reports to show you guys what's possible. But at the end of the day, we will be looking for some feedback and we'll be looking to improve reporting as we continue to improve the system. Right, so I'll just run this report real quick so you guys can see it here. I had the screen capture on the slides, but here you go. So this is the demographic information report for partner. So this is where it shows your gender breakdown, ethnicity breakdown, race, age, education, military experience. And this is a graphical format. We have a similar report which is instead of a graphical format, it's a CSV. So if I run this one, and if I run it for let's run it for national because I'm not sure what all data is there. So first, let me run it for national. So if I click on run report, it downloads a CSV, and in this CSV format, I'm going to bring it onto the shared screen in a moment. In the CSV format, you will see all of the regions and the total and what was done for what was the ethnic breakdown for each region. For example, here you see region 8 and all of the information for region 8. So now here's the drill down. Now, if I run this report for region 8, 8 is southern region. I'm sorry, southern region. Yep, I was right. So if I select southern region and run this report by region, the next breakdown that I get is actually going to show me the data for each forest in that region. So now I'm seeing that in region 8, what numbers were reported by each forest in that region. So it's essentially a sort of a drill down report where if you run it for national, it shows regional data. If you run it for region, it shows the data for each forest in that region. All right, so that's essentially what we have for reporting. And there's participant eligibility report. Again, this is a report to see if you have partners, if you have participants that have become eligible. So I'm going to click on run report. And there you go. So it's going to basically break down the report by region, by location, and by partner. What was the name of the participant, how many total hours were completed, and how many of them were eligible hours. So it essentially gives you a breakdown for the report, for the eligibility for your participants. All right. So I think before I move on to bulk import, there was a raised hand. Bill? Can you come off mute?
Yeah, I'm off mute. I guess my question was when I'm reporting on demographics of my members that serve in the, am I reporting on like our entire program demographics, or you want the one specific to the members who serve in the forest? Is that correct?
Yes, this is specific to Forest Service participants.
Okay, yeah, because we're serving all over, right? Perfect. Thank you.
Great question. Thank you.
So what is the difference between hours and eligible hours? And hours in general are the hours they work on the projects, whatever that is. When we think about eligibility, that's related to whether or not the project is authorized by an authority that confers special hiring. And we'll know that because that will be part of the requiring in the system from a drop-down menu of the authorities for your agreement. A project is any effort that engages individuals in paid experiences that the Forest Service it has established a formal agreement to engage those individuals on forest lands or projects, whether they are a crew member or an intern, and they must be paid.
Yep,
All tied to workforce development. Excuse me.
And one more addition to that for projects. We also break down projects by location so we can have better reporting of demographic and summary data by each location where the work is being performed. So if you as a partner are performing a specific type of work at 2 different locations, you would probably have 2 different projects. So you can report for participants on project in that location 1 and on location 2.
There's a question, and I know we're going to take all of these questions, make sure we cover them all, but do projects include information on where the funding is coming from to support the work? I don't, the system that the VS reports includes a request that our staff report resources that support projects. But we have not found that data to be very reliable. And we are not asking for funding data as a part of the workforce development reporting that is in addition to our regular project reporting. And while I'm sharing, just want to note that what this system does for us is that it moves us away from just a project application, a project-based application, to now an application that includes information about individuals. And that's a really big difference for us. We still request information about projects, but when you are categorized now as a workforce development project, there is this additional information that we're asking about the individuals who serve on those projects. And again, all related to workforce development, individuals who are being paid for their work, who are part of one of those 6 programs we identified, or some other type of internship or crew experience.
And Jaimin, we have 3 hands up. Do you want to take the hands now or wait till the end of the presentation?
I say now.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go with Aaron, Robert, and then Barb.
Thanks so much. Just a point of clarification on the project question. In the case of a single regional agreement serving multiple forests and multiple districts, is the project based on that regional agreement, or would each of those forests and district be their own individual projects?
So no, the project is based on the agreement you have. So if you are, yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Casey, who is next?
I believe it was me, Robert, from the LA Conservation Corps. My question is, does this reporting requirement only apply to when like my agency is receiving funds directly from the U.S. Forest Service to perform work? Or does it also apply, because in many cases, the LA Conservation Corps, when it does work in our local forests, we are writing grants through other entities and receiving funds and then performing the work on Forest Service land, but the Forest Service is not paying for those services.
But you have a relationship with the Forest Service to do that work, correct?
So we have a master agreement with the Forest
Yeah.
Service, and then usually we get a land, when we're developing a grant application, we secure a land tenure with the Forest Service we're working with. But again, it's not funds directly. There's no supplemental task order being issued or anything like that.
But we want to know. So I would say the answer is yes. We want to know about everyone who's a part of any way that we're delivering workforce development experiences. I think there was a third hand.
Yes, Barb Adams.
Okay. Well, Barb, are you still there? And Robert, you still have a hand up as well. So in case you have another question. I guess not. Casey, do you want to go to a couple of the questions before we move on, or
Yeah, they seem pertinent to what we're talking about right now.
okay.
Says, will this reporting then replace the quarterly, biannual, annual demographic reporting that is required for the RAP and PLC agreements?
So good question. And we've only been collecting this data, similar data for RAP, and we've been doing it through a paper form. And yes, so this will replace what the RAP is currently reporting to us at some level. And that will be a question or a conversation that Sylvia Staples, the RAP coordinator, will have with our RAP partners, of which there are only, I believe, 9 or 10. And then if there are PLC partners who have been submitting that data, then I'd like to know, because I wasn't aware that we were getting any data from our PLC partners related to this information.
This is Barb. I wasn't unmuted. Can I ask my question now?
Please.
Barb Adams.
Of course.
Hello?
Yes.
All right. I'm Barb Adams with Oregon Equestrian Trails, and we are obviously a horse and mule group. And we are totally nonprofit. No one in our organization is paid. None of the volunteers are paid. And we have a reporting system that was designed specifically for equestrian groups. So my question is a nonprofit like ours, I'm thinking that we are not involved in this particular effort. Is that true or not?
Based on what you just described to me, Barb, no. They're volunteers. They're not receiving payment. They are giving of their time freely, and you are just facilitating those volunteer experiences. This is not for our volunteer partners who are exclusively volunteers.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And there's another question in the chat. Is there a budget piece of expenses that we need to provide in the portal?
Jaimin, I think the answer is no to that. Isn't it correct?
Yes, that is correct. There is no budget information being requested.
And does this reporting requirement, I'm sorry, Casey.
Go for it.
New agreements for FY23 onward, or to existing agreements as well? So any agreement that we have in FY23 that has a workforce development component, as I described, will be required to submit this information. And then finally, and then we will let you go move forward with talking about the bulk reporting, because I think a lot of people are interested in that. Jaimin, has this platform portal been considered to expand to volunteer partners in the future? We've heard that question before as well. And you know, we are taking small bites. Right now, we're just really trying to understand this information related to workforce development. If there is an interest in expanding this for volunteers, and I know there are probably facets of it that makes sense because it will simplify, I think, and improve reporting for everything. We will consider that, but not at this time. And it does look like, yeah.
Yeah, Juliana has her hand up.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So just a quick question on the volunteer reporting. So as a partner, I do have access to the Forest Service network as a partner. And I have been reporting and been required by my Forest Service partner liaison to report my volunteers through the VSPortal. I've had access to that old system for quite some time. And so where would I be reporting those volunteer hours now? Because I have been doing that for several years.
You will continue to do what you've been doing, I believe. The answer to that question is nothing changes as it relates to the VS reports reporting requirements.
Okay, so that even though they're unpaid, completely volunteer activities.
Yeah, you would not be reporting this. You would not be directed to this portal if they are volunteers, and you would just submit your information as a standard project proposal or a project. Yeah, a project into the VS reports on an annual basis.
Okay, so just stay with the old portal, not the partner portal.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. And,
Okay. Thank you.
And Juliana, since you have access to VS reports, you will be noticing changes there, not for volunteer reporting, but this is an extension of the VS report. The data from this system goes in the same part, in the same database. So all of the information is still together.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Casey,
Yeah,
yeah. Casey, please.
Bill, you have your hand up again. Do you want to ask another question, and then we'll hold remaining of the questions until the next training part is over with?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So to go, I thought my question was answered by LA Corps when they asked about the funding mechanism. So our program is an AmeriCorps program, and our members, of course, are paid a stipend. And actually, in our instance, they get like $15 an hour. That's their stipend, but they're not hourly employees, and they're not really employees. And most of the work that we end up doing for the forests are funded from like the National Forest Foundation or other foundation dollars and that we find locally here in Michigan. Are we reporting on those members in this system as though they were workforce development?
Well, they are workforce development, even though we may not be paying for it. And yes, we do want to know about them.
Right. Okay, that's fine. The only reason I'm asking that is because of the question of whether AmeriCorps members are actually employees or whether they're volunteers. So it's you know, with AmeriCorps, they tell us they're not employees, but they sure act, look, and smell like employees. So
yes, they receive stipends. They're AmeriCorps members, and yes, and I should have included them as an example of a 21 CSC organization.
Right.
AmeriCorps is a 21 CSC partner.
Right, and so yeah, we are as well. So that's fine. Okay, now I understand. I got it. That's good. Thank you. You're welcome.
All right, so let's move on and let's try to go through the upload spreadsheet. So I think right now we wanted to keep it simple, and the way we are enabling upload of bulk information is via spreadsheets. And I'm going to open up a template spreadsheet. Again, this will be something that we keep improving as we get more feedback. But we have the spreadsheet, and I know some of you folks were asking while I was going through the demo that would we be able to provide all the information via spreadsheet. The answer is yes. So if you look at the spreadsheet has 4 different tabs. There's a partner master. This is where you provide your partner information. And again, this information actually we already have it. So I think we might have to coordinate a bit on how this will be, the partner name, we'll have to make sure matches the partner name that we have in our system. So what we will be doing is we'll be taking your information and we'll be updating the existing partner information that we already have in the system with what you sent. But this particular line will always have one row for you as a partner. So we're not expecting this to have multiple partners. This spreadsheet is for each partner. So you provide your data using a template spreadsheet. So you'll only have one row here that is your partner information. The second tab is participant master, which is where you will be listing all of your Forest Service engagement participants. So I'm being very clear. If you are doing multiple agencies, organizations, we are only looking for Forest Service participant related information. So you will be entering all your participants here that work on Forest Service projects. Right, Project Master, this is the list of projects that you have ongoing across various locations in Forest Service. And this is the difference between doing a manual entry and doing a bulk upload. In manual entry, like I said, you would have to request your Forest Service counterpart to create a project and assign it to you as a partner, and then it would start showing up for you. In one of the future releases that will change and you will have full capability of creating a new project. But right now, if you do a bulk import, you don't have to ask somebody to create a project for you. You can include your project right here in the spreadsheet. And then finally, you have project participant. So this is where you're going to link all the participants in the master to the appropriate projects that they're working on in the master sheet on here. And that's where you will see it. There are FS ID columns and there are partner ID columns. So let me go and show that to you. So if you look at this, you have a FS partner ID and you have a partner assigned ID. So if you have a system and in your system you have unique IDs for each record, as long as they are not PII, and that I'm saying very, very carefully. So if you guys have unique IDs, like a system generated sequential ID for each record, we have a column for you to include that. The purpose of this is that when you import data, we will have this in our system. So in the future, if you ever send any data, we have ability to correlate data between you and our systems based on the unique IDs. The other benefit of this is that in some time in the future, we may also plan to give you guys the ability to export your data, not just import. So if you export, and if you have ability to import in your systems, your IDs being associated with the data here will make it easy for that exchange to happen. And the reason we are using the spreadsheet format right now is API setup. Generally doing the API setup is not a big deal. We could have easily set up a REST API to do this for folks that are technical on this call. The challenge is to get it security approved, to make sure that we are meeting all the security standards, to establish some kind of a handshake that ensures that the data is protected in all scenarios, because this system is facing outwards, sitting on the internet. So we want to take our time to make sure that we have all of those things in place before we do an API. But eventually, yes, we would be looking to the API route. So right here we have So right here we have a partner name. On the participant master, you will provide the participant information, and all of these columns align with the columns that you saw on the form. So these are essentially the same columns that are available on the form are also right here for you to enter the data from or export the data from your system into ours. All right. Project master, same thing. You have the different projects. And all of the project related information is right here. So this is where you can see we have a project name, we have a description, we have the Forest Service deputy area. This is the drop down. So we have the standard values right here. You have programs. So under programs, this is where you would have one of your workforce development programs selected. And I just noticed, Merlene, that we have volunteer programs in this list, so we'll make sure we remove them before we send it out. And then here's the thing, the reporting unit is what helps us determine where the project is being performed. So this is a list of all the Forest Service locations up to the district level where the work may be performed. Fiscal year. So here's where you have entry for fiscal year. So that brings up another important point. Our data import spreadsheets will be different by fiscal year. So you will not be able to combine two fiscal year data in a single spreadsheet. And that's why the reporting requirement is for fiscal years twice in the fiscal year. So once you're done with fiscal year 1, you would then have a fiscal year separate spreadsheet for fiscal year 2. All right, and then project participant. This is where you have each project ID from the previous tabs from under the project master tab and the participant IDs from under the participant master tab associated to create the crosswalk between which projects, what participants are assigned to which projects. You also select the position type, you select the functional area, you select the number of hours they spent, in the certificate status, date of completion, narrative, same, pretty much the same columns that you saw on the form are right here for you to report on. Right, so once you have, and by the way, all the lists, and I kept it unhidden so you guys can see it. All the lists right here, the values, that standard values that we are using are right here. So this is something that you may have to use as a crosswalk to align it with your system if you have different values in your system. So we have these lists and we have the standard values. And on that note, when you try to upload this information to maintain data integrity, we also do validation on these spreadsheets to ensure that the data being imported will be aligned with what the system is expecting. So let me quickly upload a spreadsheet and show you guys how that works. Oops, I got signed out. All right, there you go. So all you do is click on import data from spreadsheet. Choose your spreadsheet. I have two examples here. I'm first going to use the one that works. And then you click on import. The system will go through the process of validating everything. And once everything is validated, it will let you know that there were no issues found. And you click on continue. And it basically inserts the data in each of those appropriate locations. Now we also have a safeguard where if you upload a specific spreadsheet once, and if you try to upload the same spreadsheet again without any changes to it. For example, let's say I came in the morning and uploaded a spreadsheet and my counterpart comes back later in the day and this doesn't know I uploaded and is trying to upload it again. System won't let you do it. If you don't make any changes and if it's the exact same spreadsheet, the system keeps a checksum and the system will ensure that the same spreadsheet cannot be imported again. So I just imported the spreadsheet. So if I now go back in and I try to import the same one again, it's going to tell me file already processed. Right, so you can't upload the same identical spreadsheet twice. It will make sure that you don't do that. Now, as far as validations go, I have one specific example here. So I have a validation error in this particular example. So when you try to import this, when it's processing, if it sees that something is not matching up, and it finds that there is an issue, it will tag the issue and it will let you know that you need to fix it. right? So here's the problem. You in the project participant sheet, there is a valid list value, functional area entry, line number 1, there is a problem. So on line number 1 of functional area entry, the value that was selected is not matching what it needs to be. Now, obviously, we created this error intentionally. So I'm going to open the spreadsheet. And what was the error again? Project participant. So if we, whoops, if we go to project participant on line number 1, this particular value did not match because we added something in it to basically make sure it does not match what the system has. So if there are any issues like this, it will catch it and it will report it. So so it makes you go through the validation process before it uploads the spreadsheet to ensure data integrity. So that's the process of uploading the data. And if you have bulk data, you can put it in the spreadsheet template and import it. Again, this is work in progress because we know as based on when you guys try to import, there will be more scenarios where we will have to go back and look at it. But we have tested it to some extent, and we have tried to make it such that it is as foolproof as we can make it for now. Ben, actually, let me. So I think with that, couple of other things I want to address here before we go into questions and stuff. As far as user access is concerned, so like Merlene mentioned, for this fiscal year, this is an optional data entry where we are looking for volunteers who would like to do data entry and like to get used to the system and like to have their systems in alignment with the bulk import process, so they've had time to get things in place. So once we hear back from partners that are willing to volunteer, we'll be detailing a process to onboard, where there will be a request spreadsheet to provide information on the partner users that need access. And we will also give you instructions on how to register on login.gov, etc. So that will be next steps once we have some additional information about who wants to volunteer. And Merlene, go ahead if you want to add something to that.
No, I just want to say that this email address that you see here, if you are interested in participating in the soft launch this year, just send us a message and we will follow up directly with you. And yes, these slides will be available. I'm assuming we can drop a PDF of the slides. Lima or someone from my team, if you could do that, drop it into the chat box. And I believe there were some other questions, but Casey, I'm going to turn this over to you, and I'm just going to zip my lips and let you tell us how to proceed.
So there are a few questions from the ones we haven't answered before the reporting started. One is, if you have multiple master agreements, will each of those be a different spreadsheet, or how does that work?
Jaimin?
No, I don't think we are our project information does not contain master agreement numbers. So no, you can have all of your Forest Service work for workforce development on the same spreadsheet. And again, it's up to you. If you find it being more organized to separate it out in a certain way, we don't have any limitations on how many spreadsheets you can upload. So as long as you can keep your data square, you can do it in one spreadsheet or you can do it in multiple spreadsheets.
Perfect. Is the bulk upload restricted by agreement? I think that was just answered, but and what if you have multiple agreements? Can you upload them all in one sheet? So I think that Jaimin answered that one just early with the last question. Will the Forest Service VSPortal align with or eventually be the same as other federal partner databases, such as Fish and Wildlife, BLM, or national parks?
So Jaimin, you want to answer that question?
Yeah,
Me
absolutely.
too. I can, it's up to you. So I'll take it. So the National Park Service is building out a similar system. And I know that the DOI in general is in conversation with their other bureaus to expand what they're doing with National Park Service to some of their other bureaus. But I can't answer that. I can't tell you yes or no on their behalf. I believe there is someone on this call from National Park Service. And if she's still on the call, I certainly invite her to, turn on her camera or unmute herself and weigh in on that response. But this system has been, what we're building, what we built has been reviewed, and there's some interest in other agencies in replicating it. Ernestine, are you still on the call? Maybe not. Anyway, so hopefully that answers your question. Did you want to add anything to that, Jaimin?
No, I think just mention that for as far as NPS is concerned, their portal is going to be very similar to what you just previewed today, and their options are also going to be similar, and they are also using login.gov, which means you have the same profile to access both of these systems.
Great. And another question is, can we get a list of that drop down for the reporting units?
Yes, the list will be part of the template. So in the template, we usually put drop down lists as hidden ones, but we'll leave it unhidden. So you guys can see the list, and you guys will see the list of all the values there. Now, one of the challenges that we have is that Forest Service and other agencies go through reorganization all the time, and these lists get updated. So I think we will have to figure out a way to provide you guys with the latest version, and what our goal will be to have the latest version with a version number on it in here for you to download anytime. And that would have the latest list. I am actively looking in other ways to have the list such that it can automatically update in the spreadsheet you have, but I have not been successful so far. But we will make sure that we have some version number so you guys know if what you are uploading is the latest version or not.
Great. Are the import templates finalized? Do they indicate which are required fields?
That's a great question. I think at some point we did do that. I'm not sure if it's on this version. They are finalized from a point of view of what's in there, what columns are required, what columns are available, and how the data entry does and uploads. But it seems like we may have to put the required field indicators, and we'll make sure that's in there before you guys start using it. And again, we're not going to give you these spreadsheets via email or anything. We would rather prefer that there is a standardized way for you to download it from the same place, which, like I indicated, would most likely be this one right here. So that way we can keep it centralized and keep the versions straight. So you always go download the latest version from here.
Okay. Apologies, lost my spot. Okay, is there the number of hours the total or the amount of hours since previous import?
That's good. Great question. So for import, we have kept it as cumulative total because in your system, you may have the total hours, and it doesn't make sense for you to figure out what is the difference in hours and only give us that. So if you're entering data through the user interface, you are doing incremental entry where it will show that you already have 80 and you just enter the additional 40. But when you're doing an import, whatever number you give will override the existing number of hours for that project and for that participant.
Okay, we're trying to put the PDF version in the files, the file document on the invitation, so you folks could have the PDF version of this presentation. And will written instructions and a copy of the PowerPoint slides be attended? And what other training will be available?
There will be a user manual that is in development and will be available shortly. And we had not thought about other training, but certainly open to suggestions if, as partners, you think there's a need for additional training on using the portal. And it probably does make sense to do that, coordinate something like that as we open it up broadly for all FY23 reporting. So good suggestion. And one of the other suggestions that came out of last week's training with staff was that we create a fact sheet about the application, about the portal, the what, why, who, and how. And that is on our short list.
Okay. So I didn't see any deliverables or metrics for work accomplished in this system. Will we still need to submit agreement performances reports the Forest Service grant managers annually to capture these? And Merlene commented that partners will need to comply with all reporting requirements defined in the agreement, including annual performance reports related to the agreement goals and objectives. So going on to our next question is, if we volunteer, are we committed to completing this for Forest Service spas, or could we start small with a few agreements? And I'm thinking they mean volunteer to do this soft launch.
Yeah, we're willing to work with anyone who's willing to work with us. So yes.
And then if you're unable to access the PDF version, we try to put in the invitation under files. You can email us, and Lima put in the email address and also the link to get to the email address there.
And
so
Katie, Latasha was just able to put in the PDF of the presentation in the chat. I was having trouble, but she was able to do it. So it's here, but I'm sure we can share it when we share the recording.
Perfect. And then there's a clarification of the last question. I thought the bulk upload page 1 was only supposed to have one line of data, but if we upload multiple agreements, that first page would be multiple lines. Is that okay?
Well, no, that's a great observation. And there is a limitation in our system right now where we only have space for one master agreement per partner. So if you have multiple master agreements right now, you could just put the overarching master agreement in there. Also to mention, our partner hierarchy is created in a way where you can have a top level partner organization and then you can have chapters. So if you're one of those partners where you have a top level partner and then underneath you have chapters for each state, and if that's how your agreements are set up, then when we meet with you, this is a conversation that will be part of onboarding and how we have you import your data, because depending on how your data is associated and what chapter of the partnership has ownership of the data, we would have to set you up in a way that you have users for each of those chapters, etc. So that's a conversation to happen if you're going to volunteer or when you come on board. And frankly, that is one of the things where we are also looking to get more more idea of how we can define a process that makes it more seamless when it is time for all partners to do data entry in FY 2023. So it will be a learning experience for us also how partners get access and if you have multiple master agreements, how that gets handled.
Perfect. And there's a request to share an example of the language that will be added into the supplemental project agreements.
Yeah, I think that came from Bill. And yes, Bill, we will be working with our G&A folks to make sure we have the right language to push out through OGA, Office of Grants and Agreements.
Fantastic. And when making a login with login.gov, do I make a personal profile or do I make a profile for my organization?
Again, a great question. So here, the recommendation would be, it's going to be your personal profile, but we would highly recommend you to use your organization email. So technically, you're creating your partner email, using your partner email to create your profile to gain access to a system designed for the partners. So we encourage you to use your partner emails to set up your profile. There is not an organization profile. It is still your profile, but using your partner email address. And you would have to submit us. There will also be a user request for the portal itself on top of creating the profile in login.gov. So you would be submitting us the name and the email address that matches what you used in login.gov.
Okay. And will we get some technical data we can pass to our IT to be sure that we can bulk export and see if we can align?
Absolutely, we will work with you. So if you are going to volunteer, we'll work with you. We can provide any information your technical folks need. And I think for the most part, what you would be looking for is the spreadsheet template and the data types for each of those column values of what is the acceptable values. So I'm assuming that would be the key information you would need. We can answer any questions you have apart from that.
If we submit biannually, how soon after March 31st and September 30th will we need to have this information uploaded?
So that's a me question, I think. Generally, we like to give people 15 days at the end of that reporting cycle. Well, 15 days, 15 to 30 days. I like 15 days, but we can certainly be flexible and we can talk about that. We'll probably, our grants and agreements folks generally like us to give folks 30 days to comply with reporting requirements. So I will end that to say 15 to 30 days.
Great. And is there going to be a sandbox available during the soft launch to test our import templates?
There is a yes and a no answer to this question. Yes, we do have a sandbox, but that sandbox is purely for testing purposes only. We cannot allow you to load any personal information. There is PII data here, so we cannot allow you to load any live information in that system. Having said that, we'll work with you and let you load the data in production in the soft launch system. And based on what happens, we can help you clean up and reload if that's what's needed. But we would prefer to have the PII data in the live system and not in any other sandbox or test systems.
Okay. If a member or crew work on multiple forests during the AmeriCorps term, would the only way to capture their hours worked on each unit be a manual entry by participant?
Well, if that participant has worked on multiple locations, the project that is entered for location A will have that participant information and hours. And the project that was worked on location B will also have that participant name and hours recorded against that person. So you would have the same participant showing up twice on two different projects in the project participant spreadsheet. And what that does is that allows us to see what hours that participants spent in total, as well as what hours that participants spent at location A versus location B, and what was that participant's contribution to each project. I hope that makes sense, Bobby.
You got it. So
Thank you.
mostly things are tracked by project.
Yes. Well, the entry is tracked by project and location, but once we have the data, we can skew it anyway to get the view we want. So once the data is in the system, you have the ability to summarize by participants, to summarize by projects, to summarize by locations, and you essentially get a multifaceted view of the entire data.
Got it.
Great. And there's a comment that often the work performed is not under the master agreement, but under a supplemental project agreement, a SPA, for individual forests. So shouldn't the data be entered by SPA rather than the master agreement?
So, Nina, you mind coming offline? Because master agreements usually don't have any people on them. It's all SPA. Your master agreement just outlines the terms of the relationship, but there's generally no actual activities under a master agreement. And sometimes there is no master agreement. It's just a supplemental project or a participating agreement. But Nina's been talking about this in the chat box, and if she's able to come offline and just share information or explain that better than I just did, I'd really welcome it.
Yeah, so I did.
Nina, you got muted again in case you're speaking.
So yeah, I kept hearing data entry being put under master agreement. It was the phrase I kept hearing. So I just wanted to clarify that it would be under the SPA if that's what you have in place, just whatever that working agreement is where the work's being created. I just kept hearing master agreement and just wanted to be sure if it was clear or not.
And to add to that, for our system and the way the data collection has been until VSPortal, we have never had an emphasis on agreement related data entry. It's always been project related. So Merlene, as this evolves and as we see the partners entering data, I see partners always using the terms agreements, master and task agreements or supplemental agreements. So maybe we can look into having a way to associate SPAs directly with projects. So that way we can have the visibility on SPAs as well as master agreements, if at all there is any.
So that is going to happen, Jaimin, with the new, just a little bit of background, folks. For us to collect this data, we have to have an OMB, Office of Management and Budget, approved form. And the form that we're using for this portal is expiring, and we're in the process of getting that form renewed by the Office of Management and Budget. And the new form includes a category where we will be asking for the associated agreement number for each project that individual is reported to. So when we implement the changes that we've made to the form after OMB approves the form, then the system will be updated to reflect those changes. And that will probably happen in FY23.
Okay,
For FY24 reporting.
Yeah, one follow-up to that in terms of just specifying the work. So for example, we have a YCC program. So that might be the project name, I'm guessing, how our partner would enter that. However, our YCC group will be working under multiple program areas. So they might be doing wildlife work and they might be doing visitor information work, et cetera. So that in the system will be clear for our partners to be able to break down in those details, correct?
Yes, as long as they can associate those details with ours working on those various activities. I believe that's the answer to that question. Is that correct, Jaimin?
Yes.
Very good, thank you.
I apologize if we missed any questions. Does anyone else want to raise your hand, come online and ask more questions or put them in the chat box?
And while they do that, just want to apologize that, the system this platform does not allow us to share documents with people external to the Forest Service. I wasn't aware, but we will be Lima, as she noted, we will be emailing that to everyone who was on the webinar and or responded to the Outlook notice. And you may want to just, if you have not hit accept, I don't know if that has anything to do with it, the meeting, that would help, because then we'll at least have, we'll know who was in the room. But yes, so our apologies.
Don't see we have any other questions coming up, just people saying thank you. So one last time, go ahead.
Thank you. No, Casey, thank you. And just want to refer people to the link that's in the presentation regarding where you can find out more information about the programs the Forest Service offers for not just young people, but for anyone interested in learning more about the work that we do and potentially becoming a part of the future Forest Service workforce. There's a lot of interest in developing our future workforce, because there's a fact that they share that in the next 3 years, 80% of our employees are eligible for retirement, and there's a really big push to start developing that next generation of workforce employee, Forest Service employees. So welcome your partnership and your collaboration in helping us reach individuals who can help the Forest Service achieve its mission. Okay, well, Casey, it looks like we are done here. If we can just leave it open for a little bit, in case people want to drop something into the chat box. Again, thank you all for coming. Thanks, Jaimin, for doing the demo, and Casey for managing the calls, and for everyone else who helped make this, help get us ready to do this presentation. And apologies for any technical difficulties we may have, which we always have, but glad you were here anyway. And have a great day. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you all. Bye.